So the biggest story over the past month has been the P Diddy trial. Now, if you've been too busy, son of a bitch. So the biggest story over the past month has been the P Diddy trial. Now, you may not be aware of everything that's happened, but as of a day ago or as of a few hours ago, it's been announced that the jury has made a decision. That has been a verdict on P Diddy's situation, and I wanted to dive into it. But first, I wanted to give like a quick, unbiased summary of what has happened in this whole saga up until this point, because I know most people like yourself have been busy, like living life, doing other things, so you may not really care that much about everything that happened every day over the past. Technically, this has been going on for like a year and a half, because Diddy got arrested back in September of last year, and also the initial Cassie lawsuit that was filed was in like late 2023. So it's been a while of this whole kind of series of events happening, and people may have forgotten everything that's happened. So in 2023, Cassie filed a lawsuit against Diddy. It was for $30 million. Initially, Diddy denied the claims. Then he ended up sending Cassie $30 million, and shortly after that, security camera footage leaked from some hotel somewhere where it showed Diddy beating and dragging Cassie across a hallway in this hotel. Now, this video ended up not really. This video really wasn't involved in the case and what Diddy was charged with, but it still was a very intense thing to see in the public eye. It definitely made people look at Diddy differently. People should have been looking at Diddy differently from a long time ago, to be honest with you. Like, in my opinion, I think Diddy overall is an evil person. However, multiple things can be true at the same time. And I didn't want to do a video about this case until all the details came out and until a verdict was decided, because I didn't want to just jump out and attack somebody, based off of my opinion about them, when my opinion about them is irrelevant when it comes to the specific case and what they're charged with. So again, multiple things can be true at the same time. Diddy can be in general, evil person. However, I don't think Cassie is truly a victim here once you get more information about everything that transpired over the whole 9 year journey, the 9 year odyssey of Cassie and Diddy's relationship, whatever you want to call it. So again, once more details came out, it seemed less and less like Cassie was a victim and more like this was a scenario of two toxic drug addicts who were very freaky. That's not politically correct to say. People are going to get in their feelings about that sort of take, but in reality, when you look at the information that was put out there, like if I was on the jury and I'm simply doing my best to be unbiased and just look at the situation for what it is, it seems like just, again, two toxic people who are drug addicts who are also very freaky. And that's really what this whole case is really based in. So, as Cassie was giving her testimony, there were several points where she was making certain claims that were just like flat out lies, to be honest with you. Like there was one claim where she was saying that Diddy was her first adult relationship, and I'm sitting there just like, wait a minute. I know Cassie was with Ryan Leslie before she linked up with Diddy. And even though I'm not big on following celebrity relationships and stuff like that, but the reason I remember that is because I used to be a big Ryan Leslie fan during the late 2000s, because I thought Ryan Leslie made dope music, so I was a fan of him. And that's actually how I found out who Cassie was, honestly. Before that, even though I heard that one song, Me and You, back in like 06 or whatever, I didn't know who Cassie was until she started dealing with Ryan Leslie. So to say that Diddy was your first adult relationship, I'm like, that's cap, man. Like, that's nah, man. And then even beyond that, when she also alleged that she never heard of the concept of oral sex or giving head or whatever, she never heard of the concept before getting with Diddy. Again, utterly ridiculous. You're telling me it's one thing to say, oh, you don't do that. It's another thing to be like, I never heard of the concept before you met Diddy. Because it's a big thing that Cassie and the media was trying to do with this whole situation was they were trying to paint it as if Cassie was just some unsuspecting little girl. Like they were trying to make it seem like she was a minor, but at the end of the day, regardless of what any of us think of Diddy, the fact of the matter is he was already 21 when she met him. She's not a minor. Yes, she's younger than him, but she knows what she's doing. This is not some unsuspecting like little kid, obviously. And also another thing that happened was a female that used to work for Diddy. She ended up taking a stand, and even though the feds brought this female up to try to have a testimony to make Diddy look bad, she actually said something that essentially made Cassie look really bad in the situation, to be honest with you, because what she said was at one point she tried to tell Cassie to leave Diddy, and Cassie's response to her was, why would I leave Diddy? I'm paraphrasing, but she said, why would I leave Diddy if Jay-Z is already taken? Basically, letting it be understood that she is refusing to leave unless she can continue to level up and get with basically the only other billionaire within hip hop at the time. Which, at that point, if I'm on the jury, the idea of Cassie being a victim at that point goes out the window, because when stuff like that comes out, that's essentially confirming that even though this was a toxic situation, you were cool with it as long as you can be in that lifestyle. You were voluntarily participating in it. It just so happens that in the long run, it didn't work out for you, and now you're trying to rewrite history as if you were a victim, and that's not really the case, and that makes it bad for the people that actually are victims in this world. But also, the male prostitute took the stand, and one of the male prostitutes, like, he took the stand, and he also talked about the situation. And again, he says, according to him, he's saying that a lot of the acts that he was doing and the extreme acts that he was doing, like kissing in Cassie's mouth and all of that stuff, these were specifically things that Cassie wanted and Cassie requested, and not Diddy. Which, again, you could argue that maybe Diddy coached her beforehand to ask for that, but just being honest, I don't think that's the case. I think that's what she wanted. It's not about, I'm not here to judge who likes this and what they like. It is what it is. I don't really want to deal with these people. Obviously, I'm just a regular person, so people can like whatever they like. But also, in the whole situation, there was the Jane Doe who was brought in, who many people, like academics, had pieced all the context together to come to the assumption that Jane Doe may possibly be Daphne Joy, who was 50 Cent's baby mama, which also would explain why 50 Cent went so hard at Diddy since this whole saga started. And hearing her testimony, I thought, was also very interesting. But also, something else that happened earlier in this case was, apparently Lauren London's name was kind of brought into this, like being one of these girls' friends. And many people have lined this up and affiliated this with the claims that Whack 100 made, because for the people that don't know, Hassan Campbell, the YouTuber, he leaked a phone call with Whack 100, where on that phone call, Whack is alleging that he had like sex tapes of like Nipsey Hussle, and apparently it was involving maybe Lauren London and other men and all of this. So when you think about this case, that may, if he's telling the truth, I don't know, that's a touchy situation. But if he was telling the truth, maybe it would actually make sense, just because based on the timeline of this story and based on the fact that Lauren London apparently was brought into this, that would line up with the fact that maybe they were just at the freak offs with Diddy. And again, I'm not that surprised that ultimately Diddy was not found guilty of the RICO charge, because I forgot to mention this earlier. Out of the 5 charges that he was hit with, at least 3 or 4 of them he's already been found not guilty of, including the main charges that had the biggest penalty, such as the RICO charge as well as the sex trafficking charge. He has been found guilty of like transportation to engage in prostitution. So, but the biggest charges he's been found not guilty of, it's really just the prostitution charges, which I think he's probably, if he goes to jail at all, he might get maybe a year or 2, is what looks like maybe the most realistic case. I think again, I'm not surprised that the RICO case ended up not working out, because typically, from what I understand, typically RICO cases are brought up when there's an entire organization involved, when there's multiple people, like, and to me it always seemed very weird that in this RICO case, Diddy's the only person on stand. Like, that didn't make much sense to me. I'm like, how is this a RICO case and you're not bringing in a bunch of different people? Typically with RICO charges, you might bring in multiple people or different entities. You're going to rope a lot of other individuals into this with the hopes that you could bring down any sort of sophisticated crime family or something. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I believe John Gotti was the original person that they created the RICO to try to take down, him and the family, the mobster family that he was affiliated with. So them not bringing anybody else into this, just making it a Diddy thing, I thought was very odd. But either way, Diddy has been officially found not guilty. They're still technically deliberating, so it's yet to be seen officially if he'll be served any time in jail. He's already been in jail for about 9 months, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe they say he gets sentenced to a year or 2, or there's a possibility that he may get out, and that would be interesting to see how he responds when he gets out, to be honest with you. Now, because I know how most people are, I know that if he does get out sooner than later, despite all the people that were talking about he's done, despite all the people acting like he was so disgusting, many of these same people are going to be at the freak-offs. Matter of fact, they're gonna bring the baby oil. They gonna bring all the lube they need to bring. They gonna be at them freak-offs still. That's that's just how a lot of people are, man. Like that, they're gonna go where the power is. They're gonna go where the money and the power is. It's really that simple. Like, it is what it is. Like, again, I don't think that people should do it, but again, people get involved in what they get involved in. At the end of the day, the main thing that I was concerned with was like, hey, are there children involved in this? And I mean, I don't know, man. From the looks of this, like, there was no children mentioned as far as I know. Like, it was literally just mainly talking about people like Cassie, who was already in her 20s when she started messing with Diddy, Daphne Joy, who was already in her 20s. Like, there was no minors brought into this from the research I did. So at that point, whatever happens, it is what it is. Like as much as they tried to frame it as if the individuals mentioned in this case were victims, I try to stay unbiased and keep an open mind. But when you look at the situation, I didn't see victims in the situation. It just seemed like a bunch of toxic drug addicts who were very freaky, and they wanted to party with Diddy, who also is a drug addict who is clearly very freaky. You see that from the details that were leaked in this court case. And obviously, we as the public, we did not see the tapes that were shown to the jurors, but the jury, they saw those tapes, and clearly after seeing those tapes, they still said and voted that, hey, he wasn't guilty. It is what it is, man. So again, man, I'm just interested to see how the media responds, because a lot of the media did rush to say that it was over for him. And again, I'm not a fan of Diddy. I think overall he's an evil person. I think he's screwed over countless people, but it is what it is. That doesn't necessarily mean for this specific case he was guilty of what he was accused of. After he was found not guilty, he reportedly he dropped to his knees and started like praying and thanking the Lord for not being found guilty or whatever. But again, let me know what your thought. Matter of fact, I'm out.